We do not always understand the consequences of our decisions, which ultimately leads to the destruction of ecosystems and the extinction of various plants and animals. Today, the population of many of these species is so small that they are unlikely to survive without our assistance. In today's video, I'll show you 10 of the rarest animal species in the world. The Gobi Desert is considered one of the harshest environments in the world, as its extreme temperature changes aren't compatible with the living conditions of the most plants and animal species. Much of its terrain is not even sandy, resembling more of an exposed bare rock. Yet, even that couldn't stop some animal species from inhabiting such a place, and the Gobi Bear is one of them. It is considered the rarest subspecies of the brown bear, with an estimated population of only 31 living specimens. They have the lowest genetic diversity of all brown bear subspecies, mainly due to a long-term separation from any other bear population. However, genetic studies have shown that the population is relatively stable, with the male population outnumbering females. The main difference between the Gobi bear and any other brown bear subspecies is their diet. There is no evidence that they prey on large mammals, and only about 8% of their diet is animal protein, making them primarily herbivores that consume roots, berries, and some other plants. This poor diet resulted in significant weight reduction, with adult males weighing up to 138 kilograms or 304 pounds, making them twice lighter than an average brown bear. What impressed me the most was their unique evolutionary adaptation. It is the only subspecies of the brown bear adapted to such a harsh climate with a limited amount of food, water sources, extreme temperature drops, and rocky terrain. The only bear subspecies that lived in a closely related climate was the Atlas bear from North Africa. However, even its living conditions were much easier than those of the Gobi bear. Today, they are restricted to a part of the desert that is in close proximity to water sources, and since 1985, the Mongolian government has been making conservation efforts to protect the remaining population. A total of 51 bears were found during 2007 to 2018, but the population size is relatively stable at 31 living specimens, based on the long-term study. The night parrot is one of the most elusive and mysterious birds on the planet. It was considered extinct for a long time, as no evidence had been provided between 1912 and 1979. Yet, even after its rediscovery, sightings of it were extremely rare, and the bird's population is still unknown. However, we can describe this genuinely unique parrot from a few fresh photos. It's a small, short-tailed parrot with predominantly yellowish-green plumage mottled with yellow, black, and dark brown. It's a nocturnal creature, meaning it's primarily active at night. Combined with the specific living area in unpopulated regions of Australia, these factors makes its rediscovery a true miracle. During the 21st century, the number of confirmed sightings of the night parrot started to increase, and in 2024, a group of scientists discovered the largest known population of the species in the Great Sandy Desert in Western Australia. They found a stronghold of up to 50 night parrots and saw their eggs, nests, and feathers. Interestingly, it took over 5 years to find a single colony of such a secretive parrot, giving us hope to rediscover even more rare species in the wild. The white rhino is the second largest land mammal on Earth and the largest extinct species of rhinoceros. It consists of two subspecies. One is the southern white rhinoceros, with an estimated population of almost 17,000 individuals. It is common in South Africa and nearby countries, but also has some colonies in Kenya and Uganda. The life of the southern white rhinoceros isn't threatened, and the population is growing over time. However, the same can't be said about the second subspecies, the northern white rhinoceros. In the 1960s, their population was estimated to be around 2,000 individuals inhabiting various countries including Sudan, Chad, and Central Africa. Since 2007, there have been no living individuals in the wild, and today only 3 rhinoceros live in captivity in Kenya, all of which are females, meaning the subspecies is functionally extinct. The last hope to save the subspecies from becoming extinct is the artificial fertilization of the remaining females, as the last male rhino died 7 years ago. Since 2019, a group of international scientists has been gathering material worldwide to save the rhinos from becoming extinct. We might see the first successful pregnancy in 2025, with the birth of new cubs in 2026 or 2027. This might be the last chance to save the northern white rhinoceros from becoming extinct. The Siberian tiger is famously known for its thick, golden fur and unique range of living, which isn't usually associated with tigers. They were once at the edge of extinction. Yet, in 1947, the Soviet Union became the first country to ban tiger hunting in order to save the remaining 50 individuals. However, it isn't the only big cat inhabiting the Far East, as the Amure Leopard has also lived there for thousands of years. This subspecies of leopard can be easily recognized by the thick, cream-colored fur, which changes depending on the season. In summer, the fur is brighter with a more vivid coloration pattern, and the winter coat varies from a rusty reddish yellow to dense yellowish red with a golden tinge. They are well adapted to the harsh winters and snowfalls of northern China and far eastern Russia. However, they don't live in Arctic conditions, so don't try to search for them in Yakutia. Historical records indicate that they have also inhabited northeastern China, including Beijing, as well as Korean Peninsula and Manchuria. The leopards were also observed about 50 kilometers north of Vladivostok city, but in the 1970s, a major part of its Russian habitat zone was reduced, and today they live only on a tiny patch of land near the border of China and Russia. As a top predator, the Far Eastern leopard significantly impacts the ecosystem. It regulates the population of prey species, allowing plant life to thrive. The leopards inhabit places where wild animals are abundant, allowing them to choose their preferred prey. However, there was a moment in history when the Amure leopards were at the edge of extinction. Because of poaching, deforestation, and habitat loss, their numbers were pushed to as low as 30 individuals by the 1970s. In the year 2000, only the wild populations has increased to 28 animals, as the previous number included both captive and wild animals. As of 2023, their population was estimated to be around 130 individuals. Yet, even such a good population trend doesn't mean that these leopards won't become extinct. Because of the low genetic diversity, they are highly vulnerable to genetic degradation, as the levels of diversity are remarkably low. There is a high probability that a single disease can wipe out the entire population of the Amure leopard. It is our responsibility to save them, because we are the main reason for their decline. The Hawaiian archipelago consists not only of the few islands that are clearly visible on the map. It also includes a group of smaller islands located thousands of kilometers away from the main ones. Laysan is one of them. Placed 1,500 kilometers northwest of Honolulu, it is the second largest landmass in the region, measuring only a bit more than 4 square kilometers. The island is primarily flat and consists of sand and low-level vegetation. At the center of it is the Laysan Lake, which is 3 times saltier than the surrounding ocean. In the 1900s, the rabbits were introduced to the island, and the local birds began to decline. With no predators to control their numbers, the rabbits soon devastated the entire vegetation cover on the Laysan. By 1910, the island had turned into a barren dust bowl, immediately affecting the number of local birds. In 1923, an expedition came to the island to eradicate the rabbits from it. What they saw was shocking. All the endemic bird species were at the edge of extinction, and the Laysan duck was one of them, with a total remaining population of only 12 birds. Yet it wasn't the first time the Laysan duck declined, as the fossil evidence reveals that it used to inhabit the entire Hawaiian archipelago. Previously, they existed in an isolated ecosystem without mammalian predators, allowing them to evolve without fear of potential predators. This phenomenon, called island tameness, is widespread in populations without any predators, with the most famous example of such an evolution being the dodo bird. These large birds had no instinctual fear of humans or any other predators, as they hadn't stuck with them for millions of years, and the same can be said about the Laysan duck. When they feel threatened, they would more likely freeze their movement rather than fly away or flush. It happens because they are well prepared for the attack of the Hawaiian owl, and at the same time it doesn't work against the ground predators, making them preferred prey for introduced predators. By 1860s, the ducks had disappeared from all but Laysan Island, mainly due to predation by the introduced Polynesian rats. This tiny Hawaiian island became the last place where they could be found, surviving within the smallest geographic range of any duck species. They are rarely observed flying or swimming, spending much of their day relaxing in the grass. It's a nocturnal creature, meaning they are primarily active at night, searching for food or walking around the island. After rabbits were eradicated from the Laysan, the duck population began to increase. By the 1950s, their population had been restored to around 500 individuals, marking a huge victory in saving native species from the Laysan, as 3 other endemic bird species became extinct since then. In October 2004, 42 ducks were translocated to the Midway Atoll to establish a second populations of ducks in the wild, and the third population was recently introduced to Cure Atoll, allowing future generation of ducks to escape the genetic bottleneck, as currently it is the main threat to their future existence. There is a high chance that such a unique duck species will soon recolonize a major part of the Hawaiian archipelago that was its home for thousands of years. Ethiopia is a landlocked country located in the African Horn, and is home to many unique creatures that inhabit its various environments. From hot deserts right next to Somalia to equatorial rainforests with high rainfall and humidity in the south and southwest. It is also a home for the rarest wolf species in the world, whose population is estimated to be no more than 500 individuals. Its current range is now limited by 7 isolated mountain ranges at altitudes of at least 3,000 meters and up to 4,500 meters above sea level, reaching the highest points of Ethiopia. The Ethiopian wolf is often called red jackal or simian fox due to its unique physical appearance, which highly resembles a red fox. They have a tawny red with a white underbelly, blaze on the chest, and white fur on the throats. You are unlikely to confuse it with any other wolf species, as it doesn't resemble any African canids, having closer size and appearance to the American coyote. However, this closely related species doesn't have the same coloration as the Ethiopian wolf. The color of its fur is an evolutionary adaptation to such a specific living area where wolves don't hunt on a large prey, preferring to consume smaller rodents. They are primarily active during the day, when big-headed African mole rats and grass rats are most active. The Ethiopian wolf was never widespread, and since its first scientific recording in the 19th century, it was already considered to be rare. The land it inhabits is ideal for agricultural activities due to high annual rainfall and rich, fertile soils. The human population in this region is rapidly growing, as it's one of the few places in Ethiopia with a good climate and living conditions. Every year, the wolves' living area decreases, reducing them to even higher altitudes, where they stay with overgrazing and lack of rodents. Even though they don't attack the cattle, some people believe they are a huge threat and kill the wolves, further reducing their numbers. Less than 500 individuals are left in the wild, and the future is getting even harsher for them, as the long-term threat will only increase with the time. In order to save such a unique wolf species, something had to be done yesterday and must be done today. For millions of years, the ecosystem of New Zealand was isolated from the rest of the world. It allowed its endemic species to evolve some features that can be rarely found anywhere else. However, many unbelievable and unique creatures of New Zealand have become extinct. Today, we can spot a giant moa feeding on fruits and leaves, or host seagull hunting on various endemic birds. But we have a great chance to look at the most unusual parrot species in the world. Meet the Kakapo, the only flightless parrot alive today and also the heaviest, with males being up to 64 cm or 25 inches in length and weighing up to 3 kg or 6.6 pounds, which is similar to a domestic chicken. It has no closest living relative, and the Kakapo ancestors diverged from other parrot species around 27 to 40 million years ago. Once, they were widespread across New Zealand, living in various environments, including tussocklands, scrublands, and coastal areas. They survived dry, hot summers on the North Island and cold winter temperatures in the subalpine areas of Fiordland. Thousands of Kakapo thrived for millions of years before the arrival of humans, which posed the hardest challenge they had ever faced. The Kakapo were unprepared for the arrival of humans and the animals they brought with them, and by observing the parrot and its nature, we can understand why. The Kakapo is a species of large, nocturnal, ground-dwelling parrot with primarily yellow-green plumage, a large grey beak, short legs, and a short tail. It's also possibly one of the world's longest living birds, with a reported lifespan of up to 100 years. The Kakapo is a prime example of birds' evolutionary tendencies on isolated islands. With only a few predators and plenty of food, it has been affected by the island syndrome, which is characterized by generally robust body physique and the absence of flying ability. Similar evolutionary changes have happened to many other birds of New Zealand, including the giant moa and the kiwi bird. The Kakapo was a highly successful parrot species in pre-human New Zealand. It had adapted well to evade birds of prey, such as the host eagle and Isles harrier, which were its only predators. To avoid them, the parrot became nocturnal. When the Kakapo felt threatened, it would freeze to blend in with its surroundings. However, even at night, the parrot wasn't entirely safe, as it was preyed upon by the laughing owl. With the arrival of the Maori in New Zealand, the situation for the Kakapo started to worsen. As ground dwellers, they became easy prey to introduced animals and humans. This is the main contributing factor that draws them closer to extinction. Maori hunted Kakapo for their meat and skin with feathers, which were used in valuable clothing. They also considered the meat of the Kakapo to be a delicacy. With the arrival of the Europeans in the 19th century, the situation worsened for the Kakapo. Once the colonialists learned about the parrot, they started hunting the kakapo for food and scientific curiosity. Thousands of parrots were captured or killed for zoos, museums, or private collections. By the late 1800s, scientists realized that the kakapo was on the brink of extinction. The first attempts at preserving kakapo began in 1894 with Richard Henry's persistent efforts. He relocated about 700 kakapo and kiwi birds to a predator-free island, where they lived in safety for 60 years. Unfortunately, stoats were rediscovered on the island and restored the population. Now, the parrots live only on predator-free islands with constant monitoring. However, there was a time in history when the kakapo was closer to extinction than ever before. By 1995, only 51 birds were known to exist, the lowest recorded number of these parrots in history. Fortunately, over the last 30 years, the situation has improved and the kakapo population has been increasing. As of 2022, there were an estimated 252 parrots, each with its own name and equipped with a smart transmitter for tracking their locations and collecting behavior data by scientists. Yet, the kakapo faces many threats in the future. Because the parrots passed through a genetic bottleneck, their population was reduced to 51 birds. They are extremely inbred and have low genetic diversity. About 61% of kakapo eggs failed to hatch. Considering humans create the perfect conditions for them, imagine what would happen in the wild. The lower the genetic diversity is, the less they are adapted to survival. However, there is some good news about the kakapo. In 2023, they were reintroduced to the mainland New Zealand for the first time in more than 40 years. One of them even escaped their safe zone and wandered in the natural habitat for a week. Fortunately, the kakapo was found and returned to the safe place. The New Zealand government has launched a program to clear the mainland of invasive species by 2050, so that parrots and many other species can return to their original homes. Located about 90 miles west of Las Vegas, the Devil's Hole is a small geothermal pool with a limestone cavern and a stable temperature of 91 degrees Fahrenheit. It was formed around 500,000 years ago, and its bottom has been never mapped. Furthermore, it's home to one of the rarest fish species in the world, the Devil's Hole Pupfish. It's a small fish with a maximum length of 30 mm and unusual coloration. Males are typically dark brown with metallic blue on their sides, while females and juveniles are more yellow in color with less saturated skin and brown backs. Their lifespan is only around 12 months, meaning the population changes yearly, making it more vulnerable in case of extinction. Although pupfish have been found as deep as 24 meters, their numbers are most dense about depths of 15 meters. They consume nearly every available food source at Devil's Hole, including algae, snails, and freshwater crustaceans, with diet varying throughout the year. It's unknown when the pupfish first colonized the hole, with two different studies suggesting different dates. The first one suggests it happened around 1000 years ago, while the second one indicates it happened nearly 60,000 years ago. The mutation rate of the species is unknown, so that's why scientists can't indicate the exact date of their appearance. Its population is highly unstable, and all attempts to create separate populations have failed. As of 2013, their population decreased to only 35 individuals, which was the lowest point of all time. However, in the next decade, the situation improved, and by 2024, their population in spring was estimated to be at 25 years high, with 191 living individuals. Millions of dollars were spent on their conservation efforts, as the extinction of such a unique pupfish would be a huge loss for Nevada and the US government. Isolation for thousands of years has led the devil's hole pupfish to become what is believed to be one of the most inbred vertebrates on Earth. This has resulted in a high mutation load and genetic instability, which remains a potential long-term threat to the species as a whole. Central Africa is known to be home to various great apes, one of which is the gorilla. The genus has two species, the eastern gorilla and the western gorilla. The latter inhabit what is now Cameroon, Gabon, and Congo. However, it has an isolated subspecies that lives 300 kilometers away from the main population, known as the Cross River gorilla. It is considered the world's rarest great ape, with less than 300 individuals remaining in the wild. It is restricted to the mountains and hills of the Cameroon-Nigerian border region. Cross River gorillas can be distinguished from western lowland gorillas by shorter skulls, smaller palates, and smaller cranial vaults. They prefer to live in small groups of up to 7 individuals in dense forests uninhabited by humans, as they pose a critical threat to their existence. Human pressures and activities towards deforestation continue. Their territories are used for farming, creating new settlements, and wood harvesting, making the lives of the local gorillas even harsher. The human population in the region is only getting bigger, which reduces the available resources for the apes. Because of their large body size, they lack the ability to adapt to new environments with fewer resources and limited living areas. Unfortunately, their population is so low that they are rarely seen in the wild, making conservation efforts a huge challenge for the local governments and international organizations. Nyango was the only known cross-river gorilla that lived in captivity. She was bought for a price of $40 from a local trader in Nigeria in 1994. Since then, she has lived her entire life at the Limbe Wildlife Center until her death in October 2016. Yet, not all the gorillas were as lucky as Nyango. For the past 30 years, their population has declined by over 70%, which hasn't been seen in any other subspecies of great apes. It indicates how catastrophic the situation is, meaning something has to be done to save the remaining population from the ongoing threats. The cross-river gorilla might become extinct in the next decades, so we have to share information about its existence to prevent them from catastrophe. The final species on the list is considered the rarest marine mammal on Earth. It is the world's smallest cetacean, reaching a maximum body length of only 150 centimeters. The Vaquita inhabit only a small portion of the upper Gulf of California, giving them the smallest range of any cetacean species. They are rarely seen alone or in pairs, rather in small groups comprising about 10 individuals. Little is known about them, as it was first described only 30 years ago, when the fresh specimen was seen by the scientists. It can be easily distinguished from any other species in its range by a small body with a rounded head and prominent black patches around the lips and eyes. The coloration is mostly gray with darker black and light gray bellies. In 1997, their population was estimated to be 567 individuals. However, later studies indicated a significant decline in their population. In 2007, the number dropped to 150 Vaquitas, and as of February 2022, no more than 10 living specimens were still with us. Their drastic decline is a result of commercial and illegal fishing. They were often caught in nests while fishing for shrimp, totoba, and other available fish species. Yet, a recent wildlife survey expedition discovered that the population had stabilized since it was last recorded in 2021, meaning the measures taken for its protection have at least stabilized the remaining population of Vaquitas. Unfortunately, recovering from such a severe decline would be very difficult for them. Anything can crush such a small population, and the pollution of the coastal area makes their survival even harder. All previous attempts to create a captive population have failed, which caused more damage than help to the remaining vaquitas. There is a high chance that it will go extinct in the next decade or two. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Here are some other videos you can watch as well.